Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for continuing to watch our videos and check in with the City of Gresham. As you know, the state of Oregon has moved to a distant learning education process, and we thought it would be helpful to get our three fabulous superintendents that represent the Gresham community together so you could hear from them firsthand about what the districts, their individual districts have planned for your students and what that means for our community. So I'm very grateful to have with me today Dr. Diaz from Reynolds School District, Dr. Pereira from Gresham-Barlow School District, and Dr. Coakley from Centennial School District. So all welcome. Thank you for all you're doing in these challenging times. I know everybody is all hands on deck as your districts respond to this COVID virus, and I know everybody's been hard at work and your staffs have been hard at work, and I'm sure that nobody misses the kids more than you all do. But let's start with Dr. Diaz of Reynolds School District. And Dr. Diaz, what is the supplemental learning or distance learning? What does that mean for the kids in Reynolds School District?
So my team and I have been working really hard. Prior to the ODE guidance publication on March the 30th, the district was poised to deliver supplemental education and learning supports, K through 11, and credit courses for seniors, including students that are in Reynolds Learning Academy. And that included staff outreach to students and families, staff training and use of Schoology. It's a learning management system platform. Staff training and proficiency-based teaching and learning, staff supports for lesson design, guidance for staff to set up their office hours, engage with families, design supplemental lessons, and launch supplemental learning on April the 6th. After the ODE guidance publication, it required new and continuous instruction for all students K through 12. No changes were made on the items I mentioned earlier. Now what we're doing is we're transitioning from the SEALS plan to enact distance for learning for all, which will include instructional tasks that are inclusive of new content instruction beginning on April the 13th, a broader outreach to families until every last effort has been exhausted, a broader outreach for the care of students and families' health and wellness, and a broader outreach for non-digital access to educational resources. So while we're looking at the scope and ability of all staff for the broader outreach, we also need to make sure that we harness our departments and community partners and state and local agencies. So right now, we are on day 3. We're still creating an alternative space for students to work and teachers to work using Schoology. We're not at 100%. We're creating scripts for outreach conversations. We're completing the creation of the rollout, the feedback loop, the help desk system for staff. We're also condensing curriculum scope and sequence to engage students. We're collecting data on family access to devices and internet. We're also creating plans for getting printed materials and supplies to families. We're creating a pathway for counselors to serve families with the most needs. And then we're also creating a social emotional learning outreach to families. This is not exhaustive, but it's meant to be responsive to the needs of our staff and our students.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Diaz. Dr. Pereira, how about Gresham-Barlow?
I would echo a lot of the same things that Dr. Diaz spoke about. We actually have been working a lot in sync with each other because, of course, we've all received the same directive. But the things that I would add to that, too, is that this whole distance learn piece for our schools, and as directed and ensured by our Oregon Department of Education, really is focused academically, yes, but also ensuring that we anchor those things in care and continuity of learning for students, as well as ensuring safety, making contact and re-engaging with our students as well. Of course, this is an unprecedented time, right? But I also see it as an opportunity for us to do some things differently. Not necessarily how are we going to survive or get through this, but how are we going to do things differently for our students. We see the void that we have right now when we're not in school and we're not able to bring our students in. And so it's a way for an opportunity for our teachers to be able to reinvent what they're doing. And re-engage their students. And we also are planning to deliver devices as well. We will begin that process next week. We have 8,500 devices in our inventory that are imaged for students, and we'll be delivering those. We sent out surveys already and collected that information about who needs what. And we're excited about getting those devices in students' hands. And again, it's not the device that's going to make the difference. It's the re-engagement, it's the connections, and also ensuring that our students have access and continuity to their learning. So again, I echo a lot of the things my colleague, Dr. Diaz, highlighted, but those are just some extra things there.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pereira. Dr. Coakley, how about for Centennial?
Yeah, so I would agree with both superintendents that Centennial's on the same path as our two neighboring districts. We've also been in communication with each other as superintendents and really partnering to make sure that there's a lot of consistency. In East County, we share students constantly throughout the year. All of our districts have high mobility, but now that we're in this different situation, we want to make sure that we are providing consistent support across Multnomah County. Our teachers last week began making connections with students through phone calls, and then letting parents know what their time frame would be for connections. We want every single one of our educators to talk to every student by April 7th. Then with the new guidance of shifting to distance learning, we're doing a lot of assessment around what does it look like to scale up the support and make sure that we have an equitable framework. We do have a lot of families that, even though we're providing Chromebooks, and we began doing that last week, there's a huge need for that. Parents are coming out to the distribution sites. The lines are really long. We're even just trying to really monitor the social distancing in the lines to get the Chromebooks to make sure that people are safe. We're going to also run into barriers with, even though you have a Chromebook, you still don't have access to internet. So how do we provide materials for students? What do those supports look like? How are teachers reaching out to families that they're not able to access online through Google Docs and classroom hangouts and different opportunities there, because this is for all students. And so even with the technology scale up, there's still going to be a lot of creativity, flexibility, and needs amongst the educators, and then also getting messages out to our parents that we need to really partner with them. Being online and learning takes a lot of partnership on the family side as well. It's not like coming in and just doing an 8-hour full day classroom where they're there and they're in the educator's hands. Our educators are actually going to probably be really scaling down a consistent chunk of time where they can meet with students and then setting expectations for students to follow up on. We're still going to need that family support, and then coming back in and saying, how did it go? How can we support you? What were your barriers? What worked? And then really learning as we go.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Coakley. So to be clear, is each individual district, is there enough technology or enough devices for each student? I know, talking with Dr. Pereira, that had been the case for Gresham-Barlow. Not sure of the other districts. Is that true for you too, Dr. Coakley?
For us, we currently have 3,000 Chromebooks that we can disseminate, but we have 6,000 students. We've also done some of the outreach to find out who already has access that doesn't need it, and we've really tried to prioritize the Chromebooks for people that don't have access to technology. But also we are looking at whether there's a need there for us to go beyond the 3,000. We put in some requests also to Multnomah County for support, and then there's a backlog on ordering a lot of the materials too. So we still have quite a bit to distribute. We haven't reached the 3,000 that we have yet, but we're trying to see if that needs to be scaled up.
We got it. Thank you. How about Dr. Diaz, Reynolds?
Right, so our middle schools have the iPads one-on-one, and then our high school students have one-on-one Chromebook devices. We're now trying to do an inventory on access for elementary school because there is a digital divide there. So now my technology team and my instructional technology team are gathering all the devices we have at the schools. We did a survey to find out who has access to technology at home. And we're looking forward to finding out where the gaps are to make sure that we provide the devices for the students that need the devices at home. But we won't know the answers until after we do the inventory of what we have at all of our elementary schools. We have 11 elementary schools that we have to gather all the devices from, see what we've got in inventory, and then see what the needs are. And so making sure that we have that. And then we're gonna, if we have to order, we'll expedite orders and image the Chromebooks and make sure they're in the hands of our students.
It's great.
So that's where we're at right now.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Diaz. Dr.
Mayor,
Pereira?
can I clarify some of those
Yep.
things as well?
Yep.
For Gresham-Barlow, we obviously have more students than we have devices. However, our plan is to, and I'm sure my colleagues are as well, is to do somewhat of a ratio of a 2 to 3 to 1 with our students with those devices. On the first round, we have a tiered system planned where we began with our seniors and students who need those credit-bearing courses in order to ensure that they stay on track. So those will be the first round. We've also partnered with First Student that will help us deliver some of those devices out and about. But I want to make sure that we don't confuse the distant learning with digital learning, because distance learning, what they were asking us to do is to ensure that our instructors, our teachers, and our students are able to connect even though they're in different locations. So this does not mean that parents and students have to have direct access to Wi-Fi, but what it does mean is that our students are engaging in distant learning and have access to appropriate materials, whether that be paper or that be in a device. Because I don't believe, and I know my colleagues do not either, and as parents, I'm sure you're seeing now, just because you put a device in front of someone doesn't mean they're going to learn and receive the information. And so, nothing will ever replace that face-to-face one-on-one with our teachers and our students, that relationship and bond that they're able to do. But our teachers are stepping up and they're doing an outstanding job of getting themselves prepared and ready to deliver this week.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Thank you all for all of the work that you're doing. It's incredible under these circumstances. One of the questions, I know it's on everybody's mind, and something I'm certain that you all are thinking about too, is what does this mean for our kids in terms of graduation, any of the sporting activities that were canceled, or has there been any thought about, from either OSAA or OED, or have you all talked individually? What does that look like going forward, or do we even know yet?
Go ahead, Dana.
There are many ideas out there, whether postponing graduation till later in the summer once we can gather people together, but we don't know because there's an unknown with the virus. So we have to be very, very intentional about keeping our students and staff and families safe. But I've heard ideas. Families have emailed me and said, can we postpone it till August? One family member said, my daughter wouldn't mind coming back to graduate because that's a rite of passage and it's a tradition and custom that all families are ready for. But right now, we just really need to be intentional about keeping our students and families safe and listen to all of the ideas. And once the governor and the CDC says it's okay for us to gather more than 10 people, then we'll start thinking about what do we need to do to start getting back to the brick and mortar, and then what does that look like for us as school districts? But the most important thing right now is for us to consider keeping our students and families and staff safe and keeping the virus from spreading. And I think that's the most important thing that I know that I'm looking for. But then again, listening to the ideas and the creative solutions that we can think about for especially our seniors, and then from there for our sports, etc. So.
And I sit on the OSAA board, and we've had our meeting this week, and of course we will also with spring sports and activities follow what our governor is asking us to do to again ensure that we are protecting each other and keeping each other safe and not violating that whole social distancing piece. But through OSAA, those athletic things, although they're canceled, I would challenge our students who were looking forward to that season is to, how can they reinvent themselves with this? Again, this is an opportunity for every single person that is involved in an educational institution in order to ensure that they are doing some things differently. Even the graduation, there's a strong possibility that we may not see our students cross the threshold of our schools again this school year. And so I would challenge those seniors, and I know you have one in your household, Mayor, that I would challenge them, if we cannot host the traditional graduation in the sense in which we've all had with the cap and gown, I would challenge them to share information and ideas. What I know about the class of 2020, they are a bunch that is passionate and very creative, and I would love to be able to hear some ways in which they would like for us to honor them, if we cannot have that traditional cap and gown ceremony.
So we had a student from Barlow reach out who thought it would be a great idea to do a parade with the graduates in cars and do a parade down the street for graduation. So I thought that was a great idea, but I said, you need to talk to the superintendent.
Yes, he's reached out to his principal already, and Bruce has alerted me of that. And, that's what we accommodate. We can accommodate that.
Yeah. Well,
I would say my heart goes out to all of our students having to deal with this dramatic shift in their way that their daily routines are, and especially our seniors. All the different things that happen, events and things that seniors look forward to at the end of the year, and the possibility that a lot of those things, or maybe none of them, will happen. And I think that it is important for us to think outside the box. I know all of our high school administrators are really thinking about graduation and freshmen on track, and connecting with high school students and what that looks like, and really hopefully connecting with students, getting some of their voices in to those ideas that could be possibilities of thinking outside the box in terms of graduation and those type of things. And I think we're open and willing to do what we can to support them in that, because it's just a really unfortunate situation, and one that nobody would expect. So
yeah,
it's going to be looking a lot different this year.
Well, yeah, that's for sure, and that's great. And we've talked, over the last couple of years about the three entities: the business community, the school community, and the city community, all working together. And I think in times like this, it's pretty evident that those relationships and our ability to work together for our community is strong and important. So I'm thankful for each one of you and all of the work that you do for our kids. I know that you are hard at work trying to make sure that they don't miss out on those important life events, and they still stay academically in progression. So thank you very much for all that you do. Thank you for taking the time to update your students and the community on what the plan is. I saw a funny meme from a teacher. It said, "I am so tempted to text my students while they're in class with their parents." But I thought that was funny. So I'll leave it there with that. Anything anybody would like to add before we head out?
I just want to add, I got a call yesterday from Pastor Jenkins from East Hill. They're also willing to collaborate to find out what needs are for our students and families. So we need to also include our faith community, especially if we have any students and families that do have a faith organization, that we can also collaborate with our faith organization and provide support. So I want to make sure that I also include our faith community in the collaboration with support for our students and families, because they could also help us reaching out, because sometimes our students and families will go to their pastor or to their faith leader to ask for support, and then they can contact us to let us know how we can support our students as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I include our faith community. And then just letting our families know that we're also have meal distribution going out at a few of our schools: Alder, Davis, Glenfair, Troutdale, and Wilkes from 11:30 to 1. Reynolds RPA also, and then also HB Middle School, Reynolds Middle School, and Reynolds High School will have lunch distribution at our campuses. So from 11:30 to 1, we'll be distributing lunch. And I know that Gresham and Centennial has lunch distribution at their campuses as well.
Yeah, we have 30 different sites that we're feeding. We served almost 14,000 meals to date, which is, I think, pretty outstanding for our staff, and they really rallied together. But I just want to give one last message to our seniors, in that don't allow this pandemic to really spoil the 12 or 13 years of memories and good friends and and excellent teachers that you have interacted with in the Gresham-Barlow District and in the Reynolds District, as well as Centennial, and that whether we have a traditional graduation and come back into the school or not, know that every single person, every single educator that I know within my district, and I can speak, I'm sure, the same for the other two districts, in that they all care about your plight and what's happening and what's going on. And for those families who've had to step up and provide for their families during this time, I would just want to say thank you for doing those things. We do miss your students and your kids. We really would prefer to have them back. But unfortunately, this situation keeps us from doing that. But it doesn't mean we don't care and that we don't want to help, because we certainly are trying to do everything we can in order to ease that burden.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira.
And I would just say for Centennial families to check our district website. We're continuing the food distribution at the 4 schools, plus food for families distribution at the high school will continue on the regular schedule. And that's where we're giving out packets of materials and Chromebooks. We're doing everything through the distribution sites. Schools will remain closed, but those are outdoors, and they are set up with social distancing to make sure that we're following all guidelines to keep people safe. Also, just want to say thank you to all of our staff that have really stepped up at the food distribution sites, our technology staff, our bus drivers, our administrators, our teachers. Everybody's working really hard to support everyone, and I want parents to know that to continue to be patient with us as we get guidance and information out. Everything we do for all 3 of our districts, we're following the state guidelines. So there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes, and if it feels like it's slow with information, it's just because we're waiting on guidance, and we want to make sure that we're sending out the most current and up-to-date information, because things are constantly changing. And so please give us some time and patience as we work through this situation. Thank you all.
Grace and flexibility, grace and flexibility.
There you go.
And what my colleagues have said, we have an amazing staff, amazing families, and I want to thank everyone for their patience during this time and their flexibility, because we're doing it with grace and humility, and we're actually demonstrating our vulnerability right now with how we have to change and make decisions every day. So also I want to let everyone know how grateful I am. The same thing with what my partners have said. It's been challenging times, but also opportunities for us to be a part of the transformation that's happening in our country and in the world.
Very good. Well, thank you all, and there you have it. You heard from the superintendents of the city of Gresham, again, Centennial, Reynolds, Gresham-Barlow. This community is in incredibly good hands with these passionate people. They absolutely are doggedly attempting to have academic success for our students and our community, which we know will only pay dividends for this community and those kids for the rest of their lives. So proud to be in battle with these superintendents. They're doing great work. Their school boards are doing great work. And I know that our families and our kids definitely appreciate their efforts, and I know that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this year ends up being as good as it can given the circumstances that we're in. So with that, that's all we have for today. As always, I pray for your health and safety. God bless.